Hi, my name is Keith Cooper of Northlight Images, and in this short video I'm going to just do a quick introduction to some camera testing I'm going to be doing and some of the background for the camera testing so that it makes sense. And if anyone's got any questions, I have a Fuji GFX100 here, medium format camera, 100 megapixels, and I'm going to be looking at that. I've got it here for a couple of weeks to have a look at, but I wanted to put it in some context as to what I will be looking at and what I won't be looking at, because it's not really the stuff I do. I'm looking at this camera in the context of something that could potentially replace my good old Canon 5DS here. It's 100 megapixels. That's all the headlines for it. It's medium format, it's mirrorless. So interestingly enough, although I'm not testing it this time, it does mean that with a suitable adapter, things like my tilt shift lenses, the 17mm tilt shift lens here and other ones I've got, would be usable on this camera. So what have we got? I've not even taken a photograph on it yet. And the reason I'm recording this is because before, one of my previous careers before being a photographer was usability testing in software, and I used to do consultancy on various things like that. And as a result of that, I'm a big believer on making careful note of your very first impressions when you pick up a bit of kit. So these two boxes are what Fuji sent me the stuff. Thanks to Fuji for sending this to me. I've got GFX body and I've got two lenses. This is the 30mm f3.5 and this much bigger, much heavier one is 23mm f4. He says, looking at the details there. Now, this really is quite a bit heftier than this one here. This is a nice wide angle lens. So I'm going to see what it's like. In terms of handling, let's just take the camera, this lens, off for a moment. Pop that there. As you see, nice big sensor. This is one of the reasons I'm curious, because I have tried medium format stuff before. This shot here was taken when I was testing 100 megapixel Hasselblad, albeit with a larger sensor still, and this is with a shift adapter. I've covered that elsewhere. So what does the camera feel like? Astonishingly small for a medium format camera, and very nice. It feels like a camera. In fact, much of what I felt about it on picking it up, as Karen summed it up when she looked at it, and she said, oh, that looks much more like a real camera compared to my 5DS. Now, the Canon style here, I'm just going to give a quick bit of background to some of my camera history. There is a Russian Zorky 4 rangefinder style. That one has a fault on it, so it doesn't work properly anymore, but I've not shot film for years. I had that when I was about 10 or 11, so we're talking about 1970, 71 for that. Later on, I had a Fuji. I had an ST605, I can't remember. It was an SLR for a while. And then I had Olympus OM2. Various things. I had all kinds of jobs. I was not a photographer. What did I get when I became a professional photographer? Well, this is it. This is Canon 1DS. Full frame, 11 megapixels. Doesn't seem like much, but quite a lot of pictures I've produced on it give testament to it's the quality of the glass that matters. After the 1DS, didn't get a 1DS Mark II because I'd only had this for a year or two. I got this in the end of 2003. This is the 1DS Mark III at 21 megapixels, and that I used professionally for many years. In 2015, I got rid of that, well, kept that one, it relegated it to background duty, and got this, the Canon 5DS. Didn't get the 5DS-R because in testing, there's precious little difference. The R just means you were prepared to pay more and that you would convince yourself that it was in some way better. I never followed that one. But anyway, there we go. That is what I use at the moment. That's 50 megapixels. This. How does this feel? Really nice to pick up. I'm sure when I use this big heavy lens it's going to need a bit more, but I will be using this handheld because it is image stabilized, and I'll be using it on tripod as well, obviously. But this is really just a bit of a sort of get to know the camera test, because what I'm really interested in is coming next year, Fuji have announced they have got 2 tilt shift lenses coming. So that's proper tilt shift lenses like this one here, like the Canon ones I've got, and various ones I use with adapters. That's very interesting. Didn't want to wait to test those and never have any experience with the camera. I thought we'll get the camera first. I'll find out using it just as an ordinary camera to start with before we look at anything like that. Anyway, the lenses don't exist yet. They're coming next year and I will be looking at them. I've got a book here about tilt shift lenses. I wrote it a while ago. I do know a bit about using tilt shift lenses, even if I say so myself. Book available at all good bookshops. So there we have it. It feels nice. It's clear to read on the top. I like the display. The only other mirrorless camera I've got is the EOS RP that I'm using for filming this, with an adapted lens, an old Olympus 24mm lens on that I use for all these videos. I like the screen on the back of that tilts out. This is a simpler style screen that just tilts up. It has a bit of movement in it, but it looks okay. Viewfinder looks great. We'll see what it's actually like when I go out and take the photos. Button placement all seems fine. The dials. This is all the stuff that you pick up a camera and see if we can use it. Now, interestingly enough, I've got a couple of batteries for this, so we should be okay. Interestingly enough, there's no manual included when Fuji sent me this. Well, that's a bit of a challenge, but only a bit of a challenge because, and this is where I was saying about some stuff I won't be testing. I use manual focus lenses a lot. I use the 5DS most often on the manual exposure setting. I do everything fully manual. So in a way, the settings on this 5DS are not that dissimilar to the settings that I learnt when I first tried it on the old Zorki there. So nice little camera. Really quite awkward to use in some respects. Ergonomics wasn't the key in the design of that one, but all the same, took some nice photos. But I'm not taking up film again. I'm curious to see what the image quality is like from this. I will not be testing autofocus in any rigorous way. I may well shoot some video, but I'm not testing video. I don't do video professionally. This is looking at this camera here in the same way that I looked at the Canon R5 a while ago. I'll put a link to that in the notes to this video. I looked at the R5 and decided that yes, it was a great camera, but it didn't do anything sufficiently better than this 5DS for the kind of work I do. Remember, I'm a commercial photographer, so although I do landscape as well, actually as part of my work as well as for the hell of it, I do architecture, I do industrial photography, I do all kinds of stuff, but I don't do sports, I don't do nature, so the fact that the autofocus on this system or this one here may be considerably faster than this or not, makes no real difference. I'm going to be looking at the quality of the images I can get, the usability of it, just generally as a camera. Now, not having a manual means it'd be a bit of an interesting challenge, but I know that with most cameras, the only time I've ever read the manual fully was when I got a new camera. Not going to be doing it on this one. I will get the download the an online copy of it just to see what features I can tweak and stuff, but I'm seriously not interested in stuff like that, not for these purposes. I want to see how it fits the style of photography I do and whether I might have to change some things or not. So I've got this history of cameras here, which reminds me it's about time I hit eBay again. There's probably too many cameras here, but is this a potential replacement for that? Anyway, I'm going to go out now and just take some snaps and have a play with the camera and see how it performs. If you've got any questions, please do ask. I say just don't bother asking me about the video performance or some intricacies of setting up autofocus because I'm not going there. But in general, if you're curious, please do ask, and thanks for watching.